Hello everyone and welcome to TDW's 5 tips this week, or our 5 points. One of the things that we're being asked a lot to support over the last sort of couple of years, and certainly over the last few months, is organisations that are working with S1000D either for the first time or are moving from old versions of S1000D into newer versions of S1000D, and they get tied around the wheel with S1000D Business Rules. Now, so we thought it would be a good idea to have our kind of 5 hot points or 5 observations that we make around about S1000D Business Rules. And you know, we've just released a course on TDIQ, which is a 4.5-5 hour course on an introduction to business rules, their role, what they do and don't do, how to get them right, how to get them wrong, how you can enforce them, those kind of things. So that's over on TDIQ. But here are 5 top items in terms of working with S1000D Business Rules. Now, those of you coming from an older version of S1000D might think, well, we never used to think of or even talk about things like business rules. That's absolutely true. We might have had production guidelines, style guides, those kind of things, certainly in the earlier days. But as the specification, and we talk about this in the course, as the specification has got bigger and bigger and therefore has introduced more and more flexibility, there has been a need for controls, and those controls are called business rules. Now, I was with a client only 2 weeks ago and they said, you know, business rules have become a bit of a buzzword, and yeah, it's true, they have, and depending on who you talk to depends on what kind of answer you get. And unfortunately in the market there's some consultants that just get hung up on business rules. They think S1000D is all about business rules, and it's not all about business rules. Business rules are important, they're very important, but they're not the only thing to get S1000D right. And this can be true of any structured implementation strategy for tech docs. So let's think about this. So number 1, okay, very important, have some. If you're working with the latest or later versions of S1000D, it is important to have business rules. I have seen recently organizations contracting for S1000D have no idea what they're asking for, and then when their supply chain comes back to them and says, well, where are our business rules? Where's our Brex module? What is it we're doing? They have no idea what it is they're talking about. And in terms of having some is the best first step to project success. Now, I am seeing in the market today organizations contracting for S1000D, they have no business rules, which is going to cause them massive amounts of problems down the line, because therefore we're leaving it up to our information supply chain on how we're going to get S1000D. And S1000D is not the same at all issues, and therefore if we have one supplier who decides they're going to give us 4.1 and another one who's going to give us 3.1, 3.2, or another one that decides they're going to give us 1.8, we're going to have massive integration and interoperability issues. So top tip number 1, before you contract for S1000D, make sure you have some business rules. Top tip number 2, okay, I've kind of touched on this very briefly, don't get hung up over business rules. Some people seem to spend their entire time focusing on business rules. Okay, business rules do not need to be this encyclopedia of rules. And when I come on to tip number 3, which is don't conflict with S1000D but complement S1000D, 2 and 3 kind of go together. Don't overcomplicate your business rules. Bring in some of S1000D's kind of generic rules if they suit your project. The rules are already there for you to use. They're implied in the specification. So work with them and use them. Make minor changes. And in the course we talk about some bad business rules, where we look at examples of bad business rule documents that really frustrate the users, frustrate the information supply chain, and in that frustration your price goes up. So 2 and 3 kind of go cap in hand. Number 2, don't get hung up on business rules. Don't think it's the only thing you need to be successful with S1000D, because it's not the case. Business rules are very important, but they are not the only thing you need to be worrying about on an S1000D project. Be cautious of the person whose answer for everything is business rules. Don't overcomplicate them, and complement in number 3, complement and don't conflict with S1000D. In the course we talk about the conflicts, the type of conflicts that arise and come up between business rules for your organization and those that conflict with the S1000D specification, and that can cause real problems. Number 4, there are some great software tools on the market which are checkers for language, illustrations, business rules, Brex implementation, editor checks. There are loads of them, there's a raft of them. Use software tools because it's sensible to do so, and there's a lot of programmatic skills and knowledge in there. But use checking tools correctly. Use those checking tools as gate guards. So don't be 100% reliant on those tools to check your business rules, because it's likely something will skip through. So what we're seeing in many successful business rule implementations is software is used as almost some kind of gatekeeper. So you have to attain a certain score or level of pass mark to get through to kind of the human verification, which is where we can look at the data in much more depth, and the human eye might catch something that software doesn't quite catch. Now, we at TDW are familiar of all of the checkers that are available on the market. If you are looking for a specific checker, you can come to us and we'll be more than happy to advise you what works best for your organization. And number 5, get help where appropriate. Okay, nobody understands your product, your organization better than you. So getting somebody in to help you writing business rules is sensible if you don't understand S1000D and you don't understand the role of the Brex module and you don't understand how a business rules document should be structured. It makes sense. Now also, get the free examples that are available off s1000d.org. They make some free tools, or not tools, but source data that's available for you. And we talk about that in the course, where you can get some good advice. But just remember that the bike data, which we're all sick and tired of seeing, has its limitations. It won't be entirely applicable to your project, but it's a good baseline for you to start. In with number 5, in the support, get some good examples. There are some good example business rules out there. You can Google them and some will just pop out of nowhere. Now, what does good look like? You have to do our course on TDIQ to have a look at that. But the reality is you can download some off the internet. And I've downloaded some, and you would need a PhD in mathematics to understand some of them. They've clearly overthought them and gone against number 2, which they've overcomplicated them. But you can get good examples, and we have relationships with a couple of organizations. If you wanted to have access to some samples, I'm sure we could get them for you. And lastly, make sure you get some training. If you don't understand S1000D or the later versions or the newer versions of S1000D, and you don't really understand how the business rules concept works along with the Brex module concept and how it works for your organization, then there are training courses available at TDW. We have the TDIQ course that I mentioned at the beginning, or we have a classroom-based course where we can come in and we can look at business rules in your organization. So really, the top 5 tips when working with business rules. Make sure you've got some. Okay, before you contract for S1000D, make sure you've got some. Don't overcomplicate them and don't get hung up on them, because detracting from all the other things you've got to get right on an S1000D project can be damaged if you just focus on the business rules side of things. Complement and don't conflict with the S1000D specification. I see it all the time. Use software tools appropriately. Very good tools out there, but use them appropriately. And number 5, get help and training if appropriate for your organization. But remember, You guys understand your product and organization better than most. So if you need help understanding the role of business rules and how they will work in your project, then get some external help in. Again, you can do the full 5-hour course on TDIQ. You can head on over there and have a look. It's a pretty decent course. Of course, it's online, which means you don't get the full interaction of a classroom-based course, but it gives you a good basis for understanding the role of the S1000D business rules and Brex modules and the kind of do's and don'ts and what you can and can't do. Really hope you enjoyed these 5 top tips from TDW. We are enjoying putting them together and we're interested in your comments, your feedback. So if you do have a comment on something that we've said, or you don't like what we've said, or you've got a different experience, please put your comments below. We'd be more than happy to answer or interject with you. Of course, if you like this channel, please share, please subscribe. I think it's down here somewhere. Please subscribe, please share it amongst all of your tech data professionals. Again, if you have any comments, feedback, concerns, suggestions, please do send them over to us at Tech Data World. You can join Tech Data World via our website at techdataworld.com. Membership gives you a whole raft of different benefits, but you can go on, hop over there and have a look. Again, thank you very much. My name is Michael Inglejohn, I'm the Managing Director of Tech Data World, and we're passionate about tech data.